Alright, let's take a look at one of my favorite places to farm tier 5 and 6 dust. There's a caveat to this farm though. I am making this video specifically for all of you who reached out to me who prefer farming for items rather than farming the highest gold per hour activity and buying everything off the trading post. We will be getting less tier 5 and 6 materials in this farm, and therefore will never be able to reach the gold per hour numbers of the blood farm from my previous video. It's still worth knowing about this spot though. This farm yields around 10 to 11 gold per hour, and most of the valuable drops will consist of both tier 5 and 6 dust, as well as Crystal Lodestones. You can expect to acquire about 55 piles of incandescent dust and 15 piles of crystalline dust per half hour. I've consistently been getting 8 crystal lodestones in the same time span, which has bumped up the gold per hour rate to the current numbers. Not included in these stats is the amount of karma and volatile magic you'll be getting. If you have tier 3 Karmic Retribution unlocked, you can expect 50,000 karma and 700 volatile magic every half hour as well. If you don't have any of the map bonuses unlocked for Living World Season 4, I would urge you to unlock at least tier 1 Karmic Retribution. Enemies in these locations will always drop volatile magic as a byproduct of another drop, and given that every single kill will reward you with a Karmic Retribution if you have it unlocked, you'll be guaranteed to get volatile magic from every enemy as well. Spirit shards aren't included in this video, neither in my previous one. Simply because valuing spirit shards is an absolute nightmare. The simple way would be to value them based on material promotion prices, but the most rewarding use of spirit shards is crafting legendaries and selling those. But then we'd need to think about obsidian shards, gifts of mastery and so on. So I'll never include spirit shards value either, but if you're wondering, I got about 6 per half hour as well. Now let's talk about the location and the enemies you'll be encountering, because you will want to tailor your build slightly. If you've done Deathbrand the Chatterer before, you might already have noticed we're fighting enemies in the Jahai Bluffs. More specifically in the Argon Garrison. The fastest way to get here is through the Pact Vanguard waypoint to the southwest of the garrison. A single boost with your roller beetle will take you straight to the entrance. There is no real route to follow inside, simply aim for the biggest clusters of enemies. The garrison is teeming with branded awakened enemies, and all of them have a buff called Branded Earth. This will grant them a couple of wounds when you attack them from range, with protection being the most annoying one. Protection lowers strike damage by 33%, and this used to make this farm somewhat difficult prior to the release of End of Dragons. You would almost be forced to run a melee build, a build with ample boon strips, or ideally both. With the advent of the offensive and defensive protocols, you can actually straight up blast through their protection and HP bar nowadays, without ever having to worry about their buffs. I am intentionally showing you this farm on my elementalist who does not have access to boon removal. I also mentioned tailoring your build, and that's because these enemies pack quite a punch. If I would be farming in Berserker gear and neglect any form of sustain, I would be hard pressed to use my healing skills off cooldown. So instead, I chose to run my Celestial Elementalist, which does decent upfront damage and stacks conditions fast enough to take down any HP the mobs have left, while still having a ton of defense and sustain. I haven't made a guide for this build yet, but I'll leave a link in the pinned comment. It is relatively easy to play. You'll want to be fire or earth most of the time, and you can spam whatever skill you have available off cooldown. Thanks to the Written in Stone Grandmaster trait, you will want to use your signets off cooldown as well, as you will keep benefiting from their passive effects regardless. If you're playing one of the classes who can remove wounds, you'll be heavily rewarded for trying to include the relevant traits or weapon skills in your build. I'll leave a link to the wiki page with all of the abilities that can remove boons in the pinned comment. And don't be afraid to reach out in the comments if you need my help making a build. Alternatively, you can check out Meta Battle's open world section, as they have a ton of great builds listed there as well. If you have any other comments or questions, leave them down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.